Hello, this is Maud again. Hope you're all doing well, wherever you are in the world, with this horrible disease going round. And sorry, you hear me cough. I'm not sick, but yeah. Well, this morning I thought, why don't I put the camera on and show you how I make the house? Because a lot of you were, well, you liked my house in my journal, and then also I had one lovely lady commenting, how do you get things to look so shabby chic, look so vintagey? Well, obviously these are papers from Stamperia. These three are, this one is, but the other ones are not. Those are cheap papers that I ink with my distress ink. I have this little one that I re-ink all the time, and it I have this dabber with it, and it does the job for me perfectly. And I also do some different things, and I wanted to take you along with how I do things, and just chat a bit, and also show you things that I'm not. I work a lot. I make a lot of things, but sometimes I'm not happy with things. I will be honest and show you them too. So what I did, I took this cheap designer paper that I have from a store that is close to my home, and that is all over the Netherlands and also in Europe, and that is the store called Action. I don't know if there is, oh sorry, oh it's okay I think, sorry I made you seasick. But yeah, this store called Action, it has these cheap designer papers that are white on the back most of the times. So well, you have to work them to make something beautiful. And sometimes I have these paper packs, and well, I've bought them and then I think, oh, is this for real? I'm never going to use certain things, or some things are that I like, I really use up really quickly, and then they don't have the same paper pack anymore, so you never know what you're going to get. I bought this one because I thought it looked like lovely old wallpaper, but it doesn't work like old wallpaper. It is, these are really thick, and if you want to make a pocket out of them, they are not that nice, but I will use it in some other project probably, and it will be okay. Well, if you see them, they're quite nice papers, but to get, well, this is already a little bit vintage, but if you take a square out, it doesn't look vintage at all because the edges are white, and it well, what I do, I show, well, to show you, I made a couple of houses. What I do, I use an old piece of book page that I glue on, and I took an envelope. Where have I got the envelope? Yeah, I've got it here. I've already stamped on this envelope, as you can see. Just a plain white envelope, and I thought, well, if I want to send it, I want something that can fit inside of here. So I never measure with a ruler, I just eyeball it, and then I thought, well, this can fit in here, so I just took this, made some strips of paper, and obviously a roof, like you did when you were a kid. When you make a house, when you were a kid, you would do this. And obviously if you see this compared to this, it doesn't look vintagey at all. But then I distress it, and I distress it a lot, and I also saw Gail Agostinelli use, you know, the back side of the napkin that you take out, you can stamp on it. And now I can tear out pieces and put them over the cardstock. Because, well, you see here I've got a piece of, this is graphic 45 paper, just a little bit that is left. And I thought, well, why do I like this? Well, I looked at all the colors, and I like that it has writing throughout as well. And I thought, well, if I take this piece of napkin and stamp on there, and then I can do some writing also, because if you stamp directly onto this paper, it is kind of plasticky, it won't stick. Or you have to use the really good stuff that you can stamp with, and then it has a very long drying time. And I find that this works perfectly for me. And also if I want to distress it later on, it distresses perfectly. And then I also thought, well, why? Because, well, I had this and I wanted to get to this, and I thought, well, I want a little purple inside there. And then I had this napkin, you can see I've used it already, and there is purple in here. So I just cut out some things and glued them on. But as you can see, some of it rubbed off, which was really horrible, but it adds to the distressed look, so I kept it anyway. And if I turn this around, then you can see the mistake that I made by gluing on paper on the back side and then working on this side, and then this all got wet and excuse me, there was glue stuck on it, so now it looks horrible. But I can fix it again by gluing another paper on here. That will be fine. So with this one, I will not make that mistake, and I will just decorate the front first and then work on the back. And well, as you can see, I didn't glue this onto book page, but I will use another book page later on. But then I will use the really nice book pages. Let me show you. Well, this is a small piece. This is a little bit bigger piece. I've got these old dictionaries, a Dutch one and a German one. I've also got a French one. Look for them in your thrift stores, and well, these are really nice to use. They're nicer than this one, I think, because they've got little pictures on them, and I like the font better. This is really boring and plain, and it has a lot of white. So I will probably do some collaging with these leftovers and cover the back side, and then put some white paper on it with distressed border again. And yeah, that way I can make a distressed piece of paper. And what I used for the door and all kinds of things, I used this that I got in a Happy Mail, and it also is well, if you put it next to here, it doesn't make a vintagey look. But if I will just cut out a door, and I don't measure this, and I don't do this exactly, because I think it adds to the yeah, vintagey look if it's not perfect. And I will distress this. Look, if I put it on here, it doesn't look like it doesn't look like this. Let's be honest. It doesn't look like that at all. But if I distress it, so yeah, there is, I think, something to invest is in distress ink. But I also see people use cheap ink with this dabber, and also make things look quite distressed, and maybe even Action or another store will have similar things in the future. So if I put it on here, it still does not have a great effect. If I put it on here, the effect is already better. And I have with me a couple of punches that I got over time, and some of them I got really cheap, like this one is from Action. It did not cost much. I got this one in Germany one day, and well, I wanted to take a little souvenir, so I went to the craft store. I take my souvenirs from craft stores. And this one I got at a fair, a craft fair, and the store was selling 3 for 15 euros. I know 15 euros is quite a lot, but then again, for these 3 together, I thought I had quite a good deal, so I use these also in here because well, I want to give this little door a window. Oh, excuse me, I'm sure I didn't get into contact with anybody that is sick, so this is just a cold, I think. I want a piece of paper. Yeah, let me take this too. You see, this paper has 2 sides on it, and I want this to be our small window. And I will also distress it because well, if you can see, the edges are quite white. Let's put this aside, and that. And then our door also has a window, and it because I distress everything, it starts to look vintagey already. Take my glue. I am terrible this morning. I have things lying all over the place. I will put this one here. And I want the darker side to be our window. And what I did not stitch this house. I took my Micron 5mm pen and I did borders just really loosely. I mean, this is no way perfect, but I like the look of it. And also around the whole house. You know, the lines won't get straight, and it doesn't bother me because that adds to the vintagey look, and that, I mean, this way you don't have to get out your sewing machine and still have a nice effect. And this probably needs to dry a bit because, well, there are some glossy elements on this paper, like the gold foil dots, that I'm not too fond about, but on the other hand, they don't bother me as much, making everything vintagey, because this paper, if you see the original paper that I used, well, you see it on this side. This does not look vintage at all. This is quite kind of okay, but this also, and well, the ink took perfectly on this sorry, on this paper, so that looks really nice. And I did a little piece of book page, and that also helps. And you can also take some washi tape. I have this washi tape from Ali, and it will have the same effect, but you have to use glue stick on this washi. And you will see that it will change the whole thing if I put a little bit of this brown washi on this. You see, it changes it immediately. And yeah, I can show you how I put some words on the rooftop. I'm not making this wet because that would be easier to tear, but making this wet, I did not use ink that is water resistant, so it will probably ruin the stamping. So that's why I'm not making this wet, but I will use glue stick to glue the whole thing on. Lot of glue stick. It will dry transparently, so you will not see it. You see, that already gives a really nice look to things. And let us also, like I did here, put a flower in there. I will use this one, the same like I did on the other one. I'm cutting this because, well, I have to stay in frame, obviously. I am cutting this because tearing this is not a good idea with this kind of napkin. Well, this I could make wet and tear. That would be a possibility. And now you think, well, the washi underneath will be completely gone. Well, it won't be once we've glued this on. Then you will see it. Put more glue on there. And that is how I taught that one yesterday, because I went over it. And now you see the washi peeking through. And what I found yesterday is if I go over it now with a little bit of, well, this is like a PVC white glue that I've diluted, and later on I will go over it, and the whole thing will blend in even more. And after that I will distress the whole thing and yeah, work to make it look vintagey. Vintagey. Difficult word for me, being Dutch. Okay, I hope this was helpful, and well, let me know in the comments if you craft more than you would normally do. I do, and I hope you're having fun today, doing some crafting, and I hope you can also go out and take a walk inside a park or something, or inside the woods. I live very nearby the woods, so I go there every day. I'm blessed to live in a remote part of our country. Um, there are not a lot of people here on the street, so I'm not in contact with many people. And okay, that was it for today. Bye bye.